welcome to my channel. My name is Martine, and if you are new here, I do videos on Vedic astrology mainly, but also with some tropical insights, and I focus on both relationship and natal astrology. And if you like this video and you would like to see more content from me, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to my channel. Also consider clicking the notifications bell if you want to see when I will post a new video. Also, if you are interested in a private reading, I do readings in astrology on a variety of topics ranging from relationship readings to career to transits for 2-3 years, or solar return charts or predictions for 1 year, etc. You are free to email me at the email address that I will leave in the video description, and I can send you a pricing list and reading options and any other details that you might require. Also, I want to mention that I have started membership options on this channel, and the short of it, just to give you the short perks that you will get if you choose to join the membership section, you will get 1 extra video per month for each membership stage or tier. So for the first tier, you will get 1 extra video per month. For the second tier, you will get 2 extra videos per month, so you will have access to level 1 and level 2 videos. And for level 3 or third tier, you will get 3 extra videos per month. The level 1 and level 3 videos are going to be on a variety of topics, so basically anything related to astrology, but it will be content that is not shown on my regular usual videos, right? So this is members only exclusive content, and it can range from, tips and tricks on how to read a horoscope to, I haven't done this yet, but I plan on doing maybe members only astrological synastry for famous couples, for instance, or the analysis of famous people's horoscopes, but then I can also get into divisional charts, etc., etc. So all kinds of things. The level 1 or second tier of membership options is especially related to synastry astrology topics, meaning relationship-oriented astrology. So this could be things like how to discover which kind of partner archetype is right for you according to your horoscope, or it could be, again, different characteristics, whether you're going to have a good marriage according to your horoscope or a less than stellar marriage. But you can find more concrete examples in the lists that you will find in the video description, because I have added the playlists where you can already see all the videos that I have posted in each members section. So yeah, you can see what videos you will have access to from the ones that I have already done. But I will continue to post, like I said, 1 extra video per month for each level of membership. And in addition to that, in the members only section, you will have access to members only polls, and you will also have priority when it comes to getting your comments replied to on my channel. And you will also have stickers that basically show up next to your username that show that you are a member, and a couple of exclusive emojis. All right, so that's pretty much all the perks that you can have as a member on my channel. If you're curious, you can check the video description for more details as well, or you can click the join button under any of my videos to also see the prices, because the prices will be shown in your local currency. All right, in addition to the members only section, I also have a tarot channel, and I post there semi-regularly, and I will be linking the tarot channel in the video description as well as in the pinned comment. It's called Martine's Tarot. So if you are curious about tarot, if you're into it, maybe check out my channel, maybe subscribe. I would greatly appreciate it. Thank you very much for listening to this intro. And now I'm going to get straight into today's topic. Hello and welcome to my channel. So this is going to be the predictions for 2025 series. I know that I should have started a while ago, and for a bit I was kind of hovering back and forth between should I still do this series, should I not do it? Those of you who have been watching my channel for a few years, you probably remember that I have done these predictions for, the year in question, like yearly predictions, a way back. I think I started with 2021 maybe. And I don't remember exactly if I did them until 2023 but I definitely didn't do them for 2024 because I did say at that time also I was running late and I didn't really have the time or energy to focus on them, and they are quite time consuming. But this time I said, you know what, F it. I feel like it's time to do the prediction series, and I did do a poll in my community page some weeks ago. I think it was more than a month ago, to be fair, and I asked how many of you would like to see your predictions for 2025, and pretty much an overwhelming majority said that they would be interested in seeing it. So I figured, hey, I'm not that late because 2025 still has at least another 11 months to go, so I figured better late than never. So here it is. I'm going to start with the predictions. As an introduction, I do want to say, again, mostly for those of you who have watched these prediction videos in previous years, you probably remember that generally I like to divide the year into subsections. This year was really complicated to do, so I'm not going to be able to do a chart for each subsection, because if I had to do that based on the planets that I normally look at for general predictions, which are Saturn, Rahu, Ketu, and Jupiter, I would have had to divide the year into like 5 different charts and, compute 5 different charts and arrange them and all that. So I chose to divide the year in just 3 different charts, and then 2 of those 3 charts have subdivisions. But you're going to see what I'm talking about in a more visual way when I get to each subdivision. You will see a chart with the general transits and more details on them. I do want to start talking about, I want to mention, okay, I'm not going to hold a long speech, but I want to mention again, just as in previous years, I have decided to focus on, like I said, Saturn and Rahu, Ketu, and then Jupiter, because these are the more slow-moving planets, so they spend a longer time in one sign. So obviously, it doesn't mean that these are the only transits you're going to be going through in 2025, because all the planets are transiting, right? As you probably know, the sun is going to be spending about 30 days in one sign. That's why everyone knows that they're born in Aries or Gemini or whatever, or, what all of the people who know their zodiac signs know, which is that the sun changes every month, like every roughly 30 days or so. And in addition to the sun, of course, there's the other planets. So each of them are going to be transiting through a sign. But because these are general readings, and of course it would be impossible to look at everything, because even with these readings, you're going to see, I think they're pretty detailed. I'm going to go pretty much in detail with a lot of things. But it would have been even more impossible to take into account all the transits. And then, of course, speaking of the subject of predictions, you also have to look at the dashas and the mahadashas and the antardashas and all the different types of dashas that you're going through, which are basically periods of your life that are ruled by a particular planet or a point like Rahu Ketu based on your time of birth, right? So every person is going through their independent individual dasha or sub-dashas, right? And like I said, there are also multiple types of dashas, but I'm not going to get into that. Those of you who come from Vedic astrology, and again, those of you who have been watching my videos for a long time, you probably know exactly what I'm talking about. The rest of you, I do recommend that you also do a little bit of research, and you can also find some videos on my channel where I do briefly mention dashas and antardashas, although I don't think I've ever done a video that where I specifically focused on how to read dashas and antardashas. I don't know, maybe I should look into that. If you're interested, comment in the comment section. But this was the introduction. Another part of the introduction, actually, that I want to mention before I get into it is that you're going to see this on the charts that I have drawn, basically. that I have marked the aspects of the main planets, but I just want to remind you, just in case you have forgotten. Again, those of you who have watched my channel for a long time, you probably know this already, but as a recap, if you're looking at Saturn, according to Vedic astrology, Saturn has so-called special aspects. In fact, multiple planets in Vedic astrology have special aspects or one-sided aspects. So Saturn aspects the 3rd, the 7th, and the 10th houses from where it sits. Rahu, Ketu, and Jupiter aspect the 5th, aspect the 7th. Well, the 7th is not relevant because they're always in opposition to one another. So Rahu and Ketu are always opposite. So it's not really relevant to look at the opposition because that's where the other one is placed. But Rahu and Ketu are aspecting the 5th, the 1st, the 5th, and the 9th placements from where they are sitting. Also, of course, I didn't mention this, but of course they're aspecting and they're influencing the houses that they're actually sitting on, not just the aspects. The houses they're sitting on are the most powerfully impacted, but they also cast single-sided aspects. So yes, Rahu and Ketu are always in opposition. So that means if you have Rahu in the 1st house, Ketu will be transiting in the 7th house, right? Because they're always opposite one another. That's why on the charts that you're going to see, I have not even marked Ketu on the horoscope because it's understood that, you know, Ketu is in opposition to Rahu. And I might mention Ketu in the readings a little bit, but mostly I'm going to be focusing on Rahu. Another mention that I think is quite important is the fact that I have written down on the charts that I have drawn, I have written down the time intervals where when these transits are going to be active. However, these time intervals, they are general. So bear in mind that the dates of the transits can vary by a few days depending on your location. So in order to know exactly when, let's say, Saturn is going to hit your 11th house, if you have Ascendant in Taurus, you have to actually compute your chart and do a transits calculation based on your actual physical location to know exactly the day and the minute when, you know, it's going to switch from Aquarius to Pisces, just to give you an example. But the dates that I have chosen are, you know, pretty accurate. Give or take, you know, 1 to 3 days, I would say tops, right? This is another mention. So, aside from this, yeah, I'm gonna get straight into it. Oh, there's one more thing that I wanted to mention, which is that, again, you may remember this from previous years if you have been watching my channel for a long time, that I like to do my predictions in a random order. So what I do is, right now I actually have Astro Dice. Last time I used to just pick, you know, notes from like a little urn that I created myself. I would, you know, basically do like a raffle thing where I would pick each sign that I was going to do next in the series. But now I use Astro Dice, and I like to mix it up a little bit just because, you know, I don't feel like it's fair that Aquarius and Pisces are always last and Aries is always first, you know? So, I don't know. That's one aspect. And another aspect is, I don't know, it's just more fun this way for me to just do them randomly in a random order. And I pick the next sign, you know, by rolling a dice. So, just wanted to mention that in case maybe some of you are wondering why they're all scrambled. All right, that's pretty much what I wanted to mention, and this is the introductory part. There is going to be the same introduction for each of these videos, so if you listen to it once, yeah, you can, you know, you should just listen to it once. Oh, yeah, there's one more thing. There's one more thing that I want to mention, and again, I have mentioned this in previous years. You can apply these readings for your ascendant sign or your moon sign. And I'm talking about the ascendant sign and moon sign of the D1 chart, the D1 natal chart, not any of the divisional charts. Okay, I cannot vouch for divisional charts. You can also try to look for, I don't know, maybe look into it, tell me if you found some kind of weird coincidences with divisional charts, but I would not look into it because divisional charts are something else. All right, a different type of energy. But with respect to, the moon and the ascendant, you can definitely look at these predictions based on your moon and your ascendant sign, and there will be accuracy connected to it. With the moon sign, it's more to do with your internal landscape and your emotions and what makes you happy on a psychological plane. Let's say, what happens on your inner landscape more, not so much like actual physical things that are happening in your surroundings, right? Whereas the ascendant is a lot more about actual life events. So something to bear in mind. All right, that's pretty much it, and I'm going to get straight into the interpretation right now. Oh, and welcome to my channel. Welcome to another video of predictions for 2025. This video is going to be for Sagittarius in the year of 2025. And just a short reminder, one more time, you can apply this to both the moon in Sagittarius as well as the ascendant in Sagittarius. But look only towards the placements in your D1 natal chart, not any of the divisional charts. Aside from that, just another reminder, when it comes to the ascendant, it has to deal a lot more with physical reality and actual, things happening in your environment. When it comes to the moon chart or looking at the moon sign predictions, it has to deal a lot more with your mental and emotional state. And pretty much what makes you happy, what is going to guide you throughout 2025. So more like your inner landscape. All right. Okay, getting straight into it. So as you can see on the screen, the chart 1 phase is going to be from January 1st to about March 26th. And it is defined by Saturn being in Aquarius, Rahu being in Pisces, and therefore subsequently Ketu being in Virgo, Jupiter being in Taurus. All right. So the main thing that I can see right off the bat is that Jupiter going through your 6th house means that this is going to be a very good time for your health. So if you have had any kind of a health issue previously, this is definitely going to be the time when you can really focus on your healing, where you might find some kind of a solution for your health problems. This is also going to be a good time for pets because 6th house is going to be pets as well. So a good time to spend with pets. If you want to get a pet during this time, again, you might be really favored. Things are going to go smoothly. Aside from that, 6th house is also daily routines. It is also your job, specifically for people who are employed as opposed to being, self-employed or running a business. So Jupiter going through the 6th house means that you are favored in employment opportunities. Now, of course, bear in mind that this is a general reading, so of course a lot can be influenced by more individual placements in the horoscope. But this is still, a big plus for you going on throughout these months. The health aspect is especially strong for you, not just health, but fitness and everything that has to deal with the physical body, because in your case, Jupiter rules the 1st house. It also rules the 4th house, which is the house of happiness. It's also the house of mother and real estate and vehicles. So this can also show that, because there's that 6th house, 4th house combination, there might be potential arguments when it comes to your mother figure. There might be potential disagreements when it comes to people that you share your home with. Not huge disagreements, but there might be disagreements there. Another thing is there might be competition happening when it comes to real estate and vehicles. So again, see how that resonates. It would have to be more specifically analyzed in horoscopes, but what that could mean, for instance, is you could be competing for a property in order to get a lease on it or something, or getting the vehicle that you want. Things like that could be happening. Aside from that, Jupiter is aspecting the 10th house, again, further emphasizing the fact that you are favored to get work opportunities during this time, especially when it comes to anything that has to deal with publishing, traveling, higher education, because Jupiter rules all of these things. Any kind of consultant position as well. Anything to do with the legal system as well. Aside from that, well, also religion. Anything to do with faiths, beliefs, religions, or higher philosophy and education. Aside from that, because we have Jupiter aspecting the 12th house, this is more specific maybe, but this could mean that even if, let's say, you suffer some kind of a loss due to, I don't know, a battle, a competition, maybe even a legal disagreement, or because maybe for some reason you lose your job or something, you will get some monetary compensation. Since this is connected to the 4th house in your case, and or the 1st house, this could be especially true about your living situation. Some kind of a compensation, like if something happens, heaven forbid, you could get some kind of an insurance claim. But it doesn't necessarily mean that something bad is going to happen. Also, the aspect on the 2nd house, again, is favorable when it comes to finances. It shows that you are definitely going to be able to save money during this time, more than usual, maybe. On the other hand, it can also show that you might have a hard time controlling your appetite towards food. Like, you might tend to be more self-indulgent than usual, so that's something that has to be kept in check. Saturn going through the 3rd house for you, this is a very good time and has been a very good time because this transit has been going on for a while for you to become self-reliant from every point of view. That could mean starting your own business, for instance, you know, becoming self-employed. This can also show potential long-lasting issues when it comes to your neighbors or younger siblings, though. Also, potential frustrations and issues when it comes to short distance or short-term travels, like, which just means that all kinds of inconveniences could show up if you go on short trips, for instance. Actually, the same could be true for any kind of trips, but to a lesser extent. Mostly it's the short trips that are affected. Aside, you need to watch out for ailments or health issues connected to the throat, the face, like the teeth. And the arms, hands, lungs, respiratory system, and or the nervous system. Another thing that can be said with Saturn in the 3rd house is you might tend to be a little bit more pessimistic than usual with this placement. Going through the 4th house can also potentially show a distance from the family of origin, especially the mother figure. There could be some kind of an emotional distance, or relations will get a little bit tense or more distant during this time with your mother or among people living in the same household as you. Another thing is, during this time, you might be drawn to decorate your home with, let's say, foreign themes, like themes pertaining to other cultures. At the same time, you might feel drawn to maybe decorate your home with things that have to do with alcohol and smoking, or things that smoke, you know, like incense. There's also a strong desire to focus on the home base. So you might find it hard during this time to go to work, really, especially since Ketu is also falling in the 10th house. Doesn't just necessarily mean that you will have a hard time staying motivated on your work. It could just particularly refer to the physical aspect of the workplace. So you might start to find it more and more unbearable to have to go to a physical office, and instead you will prefer to stay at home, for instance. You will feel drawn to the home base. So yeah, if you have been looking into ways to work from home, this is definitely going to be a good time for you to look towards that even further. If you are living with younger siblings, there might be potential disagreements. Time when you see more foreigners moving into your neighborhood, people of foreign cultures or countries. The 12th house is particularly activated during this time, which just shows that you will draw a lot of inspiration from your subconscious. Your creativity is going to be heightened during this time. Your imagination, especially your intuition. So this is definitely a good time to trust your intuition. There could also be maybe a bit of a stronger tendency than usual to isolate, to want to spend more time in isolation. And there is again a repeated theme of you needing to worry, sorry, not worry, but to be aware, at least, not necessarily worry, but, be aware of your dealings with people while traveling. So there are multiple indicators that might show potential frustrations when it comes to traveling. Any kind of travel, but the 12th house in particular refers to long distance, long-term travel, especially traveling to different continents. You might also be going on a trip with family of origin. Another thing to watch out for could be the fact that there might be some ups and downs, some unexpected situations when it comes to your home environment. So, yeah, be careful with that. I don't see anything major, but again, a lot would depend on what else is going on in the horoscope. So if you have more malefics in the 4th house with Rahu, there could be higher chances of something going slash wrong within the household. So like appliances breaking or something that needs fixing within the home. You might also have this stronger desire than usual to bring a lot of technology in your home. Like maybe purchase new equipment. Okay, that's pretty much what I could see about phase 1. And now moving on to phase 2, which is going to be from roughly March 26th to June 8th, 2025. It's characterized by Saturn being in Pisces. So Saturn's moving into Pisces, finally, hallelujah. Rahu will be in Pisces as well, and subsequently Ketu and Virgo. And then Jupiter is going to shift signs during this time. It's going to start out being in Taurus from March 26th until May 13th. And then it's going to move into Gemini on around May 13th and stay there until June 8th. So now we have a Saturn-Rahu conjunction falling in the 4th house. So this is even more strongly going to emphasize the home base, the relationship with the mother, the actual physical home, issues that have to deal with the physical home. Because Saturn and Rahu are both malefics, it is fair to assume that there might be issues connected to these areas signified by the 4th house. So it is good to be cautious and prepare in advance. One thing to remember with Saturn is that Saturn will also always want you to work hard for everything that you get. There's a reason why it is called the Lord of Karma to some extent. So basically whatever Saturn touches is an area that's going to be under deep scrutiny. So if you have had any kind of issues that you are postponing connected to the 4th house, that maybe you have been sweeping under the rug for a long time, this is most likely going to be the phase when things start to break down connected to that area. Now, the 4th house could be, like I said, relationship to the mother, the homeland, or family that has to deal with the mother side of the family, you know, so maternal relations. It can also have to deal with happiness, to be fair, emotion and happiness in general, you know, your sense of emotional well-being. And with Saturn and Rahu going through there, you know, this could be a potentially challenging time where you might find yourself being a little bit more gloomy, low energy. And in general, you might just come across more frustrations when it comes to happiness. Now, it doesn't mean that, you know, this is all going to be negative and that you can't do anything about it. It does help to become aware of these things so that you can prepare in advance and do everything in your power to counterbalance these tendencies. Now, on a medical level, the fourth house can also signify the chest area, the stomach area, so everything that has to deal with the chest, which is, to some extent, it can also be the heart. You know, fourth house can show cardiovascular issues, especially not so much like directly to the heart, but things that are sort of adjacent connected to the heart, like blood pressure, for instance, you know. So it might not be that it's going to directly target the heart, you know, the heart as an organ, but it's somehow by proxy, the heart, the cardiovascular system could be affected. Aside from that, so the chest, and then there's the stomach as well. So the digestive system, but especially the stomach. So these are areas where you're going to be particularly vulnerable, which means that if you have already had any kind of symptoms connected to these areas of the body, it's definitely a sign that you have to go get them checked. This is not the time for you to neglect these issues, because even something that starts out looking minor could really escalate. Saturn generally, like I said, it shows areas, or it kind of brings you face to face with things that you have neglected for a long time. You know, so even if up until this point, let's say you have been able to get away with eating a lot of salt, then I don't know, maybe now suddenly you will start to notice that your blood pressure is increasing and you might have to take medication. Just giving you an example, not trying to jinx anyone or anything. I'm just telling it like it is. Fourth house is connected to happiness. You might actually tend to explore substances more. Now, I'm not trying to say you're going to become a drug addict or anything, but Rahu does signify things that are potentially, you know, controversial in general. So that includes things like alcohol, smoking, even, you know, semi-illicit or illicit substances. So there might be a tendency to self-medicate, so be careful about that. Because also another thing with Rahu is there is always the chance of, you know, there's always kind of a small risk of poisoning here. So again, since it's connected to the stomach, again, be careful, don't take any unnecessary risks, you know, like if you have to take multiple medications, check with your doctor to see how they might interact. Don't eat mushrooms that you just picked out of a field, you know, stuff like that, that is really basic. It will save you a lot of problems. And again, I say this because I know that generally, and this is why you see these cases, you know, where people are able to get away with things that are potentially risky for a long time, and then suddenly the right transit hits and it no longer works for them anymore, and something wrong happens, you know. Something bad happens. I'm sorry that I'm laughing about this. This is a serious topic, but I'm speaking from personal experience because I have gone through all kinds of transits myself, and I have felt it beforehand, and beforehand and afterwards. Just how badly it stings to not pay attention to the transits, you know. But yeah, I'm going to close that parenthesis right now. So Rahu can also mean that you will seek to get happiness from things that have to deal with foreign cultures. You might also be interested in foreign sounding music that is coming from different cultures, that was inspired from different cultures, especially because Rahu is co-ruling the third house in your case. And you might also see that your line of thinking is also potentially influenced by foreigners or foreign cultures now more than usual. Aside from that, yeah, Saturn and Rahu in the fourth house can also show that during this time you will have a tendency to declutter your space. get rid of a lot of things that you don't need, think really hard about what it is that you want to keep, what you want to throw away. And you might go for a style that is at the same time more minimalist and also somehow inspired by exotic trends, things that have to deal with foreign cultures, foreign inspirations, and so on. So also the third aspect of Saturn on the 6th house, this is showing conscious effort being placed towards your health. You're going to feel called to really focus on your health during this time, discipline, hard work, the traditional Saturnian qualities. These are the things that are going to help you manage your health during this time more than ever. And at the same time, you might be rethinking again your day-to-day activities, like how healthy are you on a day-to-day basis, and are you getting enough rest, are you exercising enough? So you might be really going through some kind of a change in your routine, most likely for the better, stemming from a concern for your health. There might also be potentially more competition during this time. There might be more for lack of a better word, maybe enemies, but I'm not going to say like arch enemies or anything insane here. But yeah, you might have to deal with, let's say, more naysayers, more competition than usual. But at the same time, Saturn aspecting the 6th house means that you are also, very well endowed to deal with any kind of competition or enemies that might come your way. I have to say, so thankfully we do have Taurus, Jupiter in Taurus from March 26th until May 13th. So during this time, you will, still kind of run on the inertia of the previous timeline when Jupiter was in Taurus. But afterwards, so once Jupiter enters Gemini on May 13th, the career area of your life might start to really feel heavier than usual because you will have Ketu there with Saturn aspecting. So this will tend to show a kind of a desire to withdraw. You will feel this desire maybe to become more introverted, and it might affect your career. It might affect your, not just your performance, but it might affect the way that you are seen at the workplace, because Ketu is an energy that really wants to kind of break away from the world, and it's kind of that hermit archetype, that wants to sit alone on the mountain and meditate, and it really doesn't like to deal with worldly things. So Ketu going through the 10th house is really going to put you to the challenge in the sense that you will find that only things that are very spiritual, that are very meaningful, are going to keep your attention during this time when it comes to your work. So a good piece of advice that I could give you is, of course, I'm not trying to say you have to change your career if you're not happy with your job, but the way to go through this, if you are stuck in a profession that you don't particularly like and that is repetitive and maybe overly materialistic, like many jobs are, you have to look at the spiritual aspects. You have to look at the aspects the aspects that show how you help other people, as opposed to thinking about how much money you are making and how successful you are. And, all these superficial things that have to deal with social status and, praise and all this stuff, and just money in general, right? So Ketu is really going to push you to become more spiritual, especially since Ketu, in your case, co-rules the 12th house. So this is going to be, I'm pretty sure you're going to feel it pretty strongly. Like you might start to feel like you are losing interest in your job. Like I said, especially if you have a kind of profession that does not really hold a strong spiritual meaning to you, and it's not something that you are very passionate about. During this time, on the other hand, if you can reorient yourself towards positions that will focus on a lot of research, or focus on even things that have to deal with occult things and intuition and energy work and everything that is, kind of in the unseen world, that would be great, and you would thrive in these areas. Also, things that are more down to earth that are connected to Ketu are things that are connected to small electronics, computers, laptops. So to some extent, everything that has to deal with, working through the online environment with small computers, like, I don't know, tech support or something. That could be something that you would thrive in, for instance, with this Ketu. Also working on things to do with cabling and connectivity on an electrical plane. And another thing with Ketu in the 10th house is that Ketu wants to have a hands-on approach. It's not very good at being theoretical. So during this time, again, if you could put yourself in a line of work that is more hands-on, that is more pragmatic, where you learn mostly through repetition, through practicing things, case studies and stuff like that, as opposed to, I don't know, being overly theoretical. This, again, would really help you, sail through this period of time smoothly. Aspecting the 10th house actually is not it's more like a mildly positive aspect, if anything, especially since Saturn is ruling your second house, which is the house of savings and money, really. And it's also co-ruling the third house, which is the house of your thought processes and your independent thinking and all that. This can also really show that actually during this time, if you are a little bit more assertive about, discussing your ideas with your superiors at work, you might actually get recognition for this. But you have to do it in a way that is, not aggressive, or make sure you don't get into ego clashes or stuff like that. But if you make small suggestions, you might actually be surprised to realize that, your superiors are listening to you. And you might get more respect like this. Yeah. Saturn also aspecting the first house, though, is also going to make you potentially a little bit more self-conscious than usual, a little bit more shy and introverted. So actually, all of these aspects to some extent are going to make you a little bit more shy and introverted. The aspect on the 10th house, on the first house. So yeah, as opposed to your usual self, you might find yourself, kind of retreating into your shell a little bit, or, feeling less outspoken than usual. And this is not necessarily a bad thing. It's just, again, think about it and put it in context. So again, if you are expected to showcase your talents or your achievements at work, then of course it might not be helpful to be self-effacing and to not own what you have achieved, basically. So keep this in mind. Don't back down too much. Also, of course, if you are given an opportunity to, let's say, get a new job or get a new position within the same company or get a promotion, then of course you have to stand up and own it and be confident and outspoken, basically. And you're going to see this tendency to be shy and self-effacing showing up a lot more once Jupiter is moving into Gemini from around May 13th. Rahu aspecting the 4th, the 8th, and the 12th houses while ruling the 3rd house. Multiple implications. One thing that I could say is there might be some challenges happening with the in-laws or with people coming from faraway places because of the 8th and 12th house influences. Aside from that, there might be some kind of situation happening either with your neighbors and or your younger siblings that potentially could get you in trouble when it comes to real estate, when it comes to vehicles, maybe even the relationship to your mother. Also might get you in trouble with your in-laws, might get you, somehow might create problems for you when it comes to taking up a loan. Also problems when it comes to foreign travel or dealing with foreigners. Maybe even sleep issues. I mean, obviously that would be more specific, but if it's bad enough, could create sleep problems. Another thing, though, is just that your actual thoughts, so maybe not even the relationship to a younger sibling, but your thoughts becoming a little bit more agitated and also more towards a negative twist could create, insomnia. So Of course, one way to deal with that is the usual steps, reduce anxiety by taking up exercise, by walking more in fresh air, by meditating, and generally avoiding anything that might overstimulate negative thinking. To aspecting your second house and your sixth house together with Saturn. This is also showing that during this time you might have more than usual anxiety, especially from May 13th onwards, not so much before May 13th. While Jupiter is in Taurus, still to a large extent you're going to feel pretty relaxed because Jupiter is going to offset a lot of the negative impacts of Ketu's aspects. But from around May 13th, when Jupiter is going to enter Gemini and it's moving away from the Earth signs in your chart, you might start to feel more anxiety when it comes to your finances, when it comes to your career and your profession. But again, bear in mind that you might be overreacting, especially with the Ketu's aspect on the second house. There might be this tendency to worry about money even when you actually have more than enough money to get by. So it could be like unrealistic level of worrying and anxiety. Same thing with your health, actually. So same thing with your health, also potentially with employment. So you might have like a lot of irrational fears, so to speak. Might become a little bit of a hypochondriac, for instance, when it comes to your health. Okay, this is pretty much what I could see about the second chart phase. So let me look at the third chart phase, which is going to be from June 8th to about, well, the end of the year, December 31st / January 1st, 2026. And during this time, Saturn is going to stay in Pisces, Rahu is going to stay in Aquarius, and then Jupiter is going to be, well, actually Rahu is moving into Aquarius. And Jupiter is going to start out being in Gemini until roughly October 13th, after which it's going to move into Cancer until the end of the year and probably beyond. But I have stopped at around the end of 2025 because this is just predictions for 2025. All right, so looking at the chart here, we have Rahu moving into the third house. This is in many ways a positive thing because Rahu in the third house will really give you a boost of energy and confidence. Now, to a large extent, this is a good level of confidence. However, if you have, let's say, a lot of malefics going on with this configuration, like let's say you have malefics sitting in the third house or any of the other houses that are ruled by the air signs like Gemini and Libra, there might be a tendency to be overconfident and a tendency to become impulsive. So that's something that you're going to have to watch out for. Don't throw yourself head first, especially not when it comes to interpersonal relationships, which are the houses that are marked by Rahu in your case. So, for instance, the aspect on the seventh house is cautioning you to be careful about entering new long-term relationships, new partnerships of any kind. Also, more specifically, it has to deal with sexuality. Seventh house is one of the houses that most strongly actually connects to sexuality, even more so than the eighth house, according to Vedic astrology. So, for instance, that means don't be reckless when it comes to your sexuality. Rahu is a point that tends to rule two-faced individuals, parvenites, narcissists, people who are hyper-materialistic. This is why whenever you have a strong Rahu aspect on a particular area of life, it is advisable that you tread with caution. With any new contacts, anything that seems like it's too good to be true, someone is offering you some kind of a business deal that promises huge profits, don't take the bait. Not without thoroughly investigating this person and everything that they say. Okay, and since it aspects the relationship houses, this also shows that you yourself might become more ambitious when it comes to creating new relationships in your life, especially from a material point of view. So you're going to be seeking to build connections that will further you in life when it comes to your material ambitions, your professional ambitions to some extent as well. Since Rahu is ruling the third house and it's sitting in the third house, this is definitely a confidence boost. You're going to get more clarity and determination during this time. And even though, let's say, maybe in previous periods of time, you had a lot of self-doubt, or, you were just confused about which way to go, during this time, you're going to find yourself a lot more single-minded and maybe even borderline obsessive, because Rahu can become obsessive, especially when it is falling in the third house, which is one of the houses connected to thought processes. Aside from that, third house Rahu is also a brilliant combination in many ways, because it's really stimulating your intellectual activity, your curiosity, your hunger to learn new things, to, again, meet new people, to go outside of the box when it comes to romantic relationships as well, but also any kind of relationship. For instance, you might be, entertaining friendships with new people, especially people that are coming from a significantly different background than you, maybe even from foreign cultures. Aside from that, Rahu in the third house is great for any kind of entrepreneurial activities. So this could be a great time if you are seeking to, start your own business, to become more independent, maybe even a side hustle. This is going to be a great time for that, the whole time when Rahu is sitting in Aquarius. And starting out, especially, this is even more true while Jupiter is in Gemini, because Jupiter is also aspecting the same houses at the same time, right? So Jupiter is going to be in Gemini, looking at the 11th house and the third house where Rahu is sitting. So a lot of the negative impacts of Rahu in the third are going to be mitigated while Jupiter is also in Gemini. The more challenging phase is going to be once it moves into Cancer and it kind of takes away its protective energy from these houses that Rahu aspects. But while Jupiter is in Gemini, that's another thing. You could be meeting someone significant because Jupiter is in the 7th house in your case. So Jupiter is actually the signifier of children. I was going to say marriage, but it's the signifier for children. It's also the husband archetype. According to a large school of Vedic astrology, it is the husband archetype for women, as opposed to Mars, which is more of a boyfriend archetype. According to other schools of Vedic astrology, Mars is also the husband archetype, but let's not dwell. So yeah, especially for women, but not just for women, because Jupiter, there's a reason why, the 9th house is the house that is being analyzed in depth in order to create the divisional chart of the Navamsha. Because the 9th house is actually even more so connected to marriage than the 7th house. The 7th house is the house of partnership, yes, of the opposite party, of the romantic partner. But the 9th house is actually marriage as a religious concept, as a spiritual concept. So Jupiter, by extension, because Jupiter naturally rules the 9th house, and, Sagittarius, the 9th sign, it is very much connected to marriage, So you could be meeting someone significant during this time. Of course, for some people, it will be more likely than for others based on what else is going on there. So if you also have, let's say, the Dara-Karaka being somehow aspected by Jupiter, it's even more strongly indicated that you might meet someone like a long-term significant romantic partner. Or for those of you who are, let's say, already in relationships, this could be a good time to get married. Either way, though, you will feel once Jupiter is moving into, Jupiter has moved into Gemini before June 8th, but once, when Jupiter is in Gemini, you will feel this stronger sense of responsibility towards partnerships in general. So more of a heaviness, more like somehow this area will just really attract your attention. So, Ketu sitting in the ninth house. This is going to make you, on the one hand, simultaneously more spiritual and at the same time more doubtful or more scrutinizing towards organized religion, you know? So you will have this very strong pull to really study the subject of spirituality in depth. So you might be, you know, feeling drawn to studying things that you haven't studied up until this point, like, you know, maybe other cultures, religions, or things to do with the occult, things to do with energy work, things that have to deal with, you know, more subtle things that are to do with the unseen world as opposed to the material world, which is more like Rahu energy. So there will be this, you know, stronger spiritual side developing, but at the same time, Ketu in the ninth can also show a cooling down of the relationship with mentors, teachers, maybe even the father figure. Worst case scenario, and I don't want to jinx this for anyone, but Ketu can even show death sometimes of one or several of these figures in your life, because Ketu has to deal, it doesn't rule death per se, but it shows a kind of dissipation or dissolution of energy. So a lot of the times in readings and horoscopes, it can't even signify death, like, you know, people leaving your life that way. But Ketu can also show just a kind of a moving away, you know, you're like moving away from that energy that is signified by Ketu, unless it becomes a very spiritual pursuit for you, you know. So again, either you're going to get very spiritual and very focused on research, but when it comes to, you know, very ethereal topics that don't have anything to do with materialism, either that, or you're just going to, you know, check out altogether from ninth house consideration. So you're not, maybe if you were someone who was very focused on getting a degree, you might find that you struggle to have the motivation to carry on right now, especially when it comes to, you know, master's degree and above, because that's what ninth house would tend to signify. Tendency to become introverted is going to become even more emphasized after, you know, towards the end of the year, after October 13th, because of Ketu's energy. Well, actually, not just after October 13th, the whole time when Rahu is in Aquarius. So after June 8th, you're going to become way more introverted, because you're going to have the Saturn and the Ketu aspecting the first house. So a tendency to become more withdrawn and even questioning your sense of identity to some extent. That could also be a thing because of the Ketu energy. You might also become a lot more aware of your subconscious, like your subconscious patterns. Maybe you're going to have a lot stronger dreams that are telling you things. You're going to become more in touch with your, you know, with your dreams, like recurring dreams and stuff like that, and what they signify. Another thing is, though, once Jupiter moves into Cancer from October 13th until the end of the year, this is going to be a pretty good situation in many ways. Definitely giving you a optimism boost, a greater sense of happiness and joy, because it's going to be aspecting the 12th and the 4th houses. So it's going to soften up the Saturnian energy over there in the 4th house. This could also show that any kind of problems that you may have had due to, let's say, living situations, real estate, vehicles, relationship with the mother, maybe even subconscious things like depression, stuff like that, or issues with foreign cultures, import-export things, or religion, even to some extent, or religious figures. All of these things will kind of, you know, soften up, might even dissipate during this time, you know, altogether, once Jupiter enters Cancer on around October 13th, because it will really soften up the energy of Saturn there in the 4th house. Aside from that, it will also be a great time for you to get a loan if you've ever wanted one, because Jupiter is exalted, sitting in Cancer in your 8th house. So this is going to be a great time to get a loan or to plan something like a pension plan, insurance, because you're going to get really favorable deals during this time. You're going to get opportunities that maybe you wouldn't have gotten before. Aside from that, relationship with the in-laws is going to be really good for those of you who are married. So the in-laws might help you out in some way. This is also going to be like a very transformational phase. So I'm talking about the time starting at around October 13th. It's going to be a pretty transformational phase, maybe especially when it comes to your physical body. So you could be going through some kind of a glow up, or, you know, you're going to be really favored during this time to change your appearance or to change your health in some significant way. At the same time, your entire worldview could be changed significantly during this time. The finance situation overall for you is going to be pretty much not great, not terrible for most of the year. So there aren't any like strong positive influences. There aren't any strong negative influences. So it means that to a large extent, you know, it's like you have to work towards things, but you're not going to see like, you know, huge opportunities, but not huge setbacks either. And that's pretty much it. So these are the main themes that I have seen for you, Sagittarius, for the year of 2025. I hope you have enjoyed this video. Of course, feel free to come back throughout the year every time you feel like it to get a refresh. And keep me posted in the comment section with what you noticed, and maybe if you have already noticed some things, because some of these transits, especially in the chart 1 phase, have been going on for a while now. So please let me know in the comment section if you have noticed anything that resonates. And yeah, so anything you want to comment in the comment section actually would be welcome, as long as it's respectful. And aside from that, please don't forget to subscribe to my channel if you haven't done so already. It's the easiest way to support me, and it is free. Also, consider clicking on the notifications bell if you want to see when I will post a new video. If you want to find out more about the membership section and everything that it entails, just check out the introductory part of this video. I will leave timestamps in the description. Aside from that, if you would be interested in getting a private astrology reading, I do readings on a multitude of subjects. You can email me at the email address in the video description. I can give you more details about pricing lists, waiting times, and any kind of details actually that you might be interested in. And last but not least, I also have a tarot channel, which I have started more recently than this channel. And if you're interested in tarot, go ahead and check it out. Maybe subscribe. I would greatly appreciate it. So again, I will leave the link to my tarot channel in the video description as well. Yep. Thank you very much for listening, and I hope to see you at my next video. Bye.